Hi, Eric Lanask here at ITEXPO. We're in Las Vegas at the Rio, and on the program with me today from ThingWorx is John Canosa. John, thanks for joining me.
Well, thanks for having me.
So, there's always, especially when certain markets and market segments start seeing a lot of momentum. Industry consolidation always becomes a question, and typically a way for it to continue evolving and growing and building that momentum. Talk to me a little bit about what drove the Exida deal and how that's been playing out.
Sure. I think, as you mentioned, as the hype increases and a lot of players are getting into the space, and I think that's actually a sign of some maturity happening, or
Sure.
at least beginning to happen in the space. And having been in the space for about 15 years, that's actually, I think, a very good thing.
Mm-hmm.
So consolidation becomes inevitable, and ThingWorx was acquired by PTC back at the end of December last year. I'm very excited about that, and a great fit from a company perspective, and the vision of PTC for smart connected products was a natural fit for ThingWorx. Now, when we bring in Exida into the fold, essentially what PTC has done has taken the two leading platforms, and there was a pretty big distance between number 1, 2, and then back to number
Sure.
3, and combine them together to create an offering that really is unmatched in the breadth and completeness of the functionality. The two companies are actually very, very complementary from a technology perspective. So really, we each kind of coming together fill some gaps that in the product portfolios to really have the only complete solution out there.
So, sometimes we've seen in the market with, a couple of the top vendors in any space coming together, you end up seeing a little bit of complacency in the market. So how do you now, as a complete provider, end up, how can you avoid that and continue to drive the market forward?
Yeah, I don't think that's going to be an issue here, because the consolidation is actually happening pretty early in the market. We're still kind of in that hype cycle, inflated expectations piece, and what the combination of ThingWorx and Exida does, combined with the PTC offerings, is that puts us in a very solid position, because now we have a very large player with a complete offering. And honestly, when you're towards the top of that hype cycle, you see what I call, we're at the hype cycle, top of the mountain, and we see a lot of people kind of helicoptering in to jump in and chase the shiny objects. A lot of small companies, going, they see a shiny object and they chase it and try and get into that space, right? And that's a challenge for customers, people looking at vendors and looking for solutions, because it becomes very confusing. There's a new device cloud. It seems like one pops up every other week. And what I like to say is, if you're familiar with the Gartner hype cycle, we're at that peak of inflated expectations. The next stage is that trough of disillusionment, and the trough of disillusionment is littered with the carcasses of companies that bet on the wrong horse coming down that mountain. Mm-hmm. And I think from a pure offering and financial strength standpoint, PTC plus ThingWorx plus Exida is a very, very powerful combination that will keep our customers out of that trough of disillusionment.
So, as a dominant player, kind of looking down at the market, are there particular areas, market segments where you'll be looking to drive more, growth as opposed to others in terms of development and M2M applications?
We're still very much a horizontal play, and we're really not seeing kind of one vertical segment pop up more than any other. In fact, what I see is that this has really become, and one of the powers of the ThingWorx platform for this rapid application development is, it's really micro verticals. I mean, take something like smart farming, right? Smart farming, people would think of that as a vertical, a vertical segment. We have many customers in that area, but just to give you an example, we have a customer that actually is kind of working with crop farmers, monitoring the soil moisture content, bringing satellite imagery, on-farm systems, their name is. So traditional farming. We have customers that are in a customer called Vital Herd doing cattle farming. So tracking, monitoring cattle. And then we actually have customers that are creating a software as a service that they are offering to chicken farmers. And so just in that kind of one concept of smart farming, there's 3 very, very different applications that needed to be built, and actually a little bit more than 3, because there's applications for different users in those different micro verticals.
So beyond M2M, the other 2 terms that I keep hearing, Internet of Things, Internet of Everything, and just the idea that effectively everything's going to eventually be connected, that really leaves the door open for a platform like ThingWorx and Exida have now brought together for development in literally any market. Is there any conceivable space that won't be able to benefit from what you've done?
The minute I pick one, someone will come up with an idea that they want to connect. I mean, who would have thought even 5 years ago that there'd be connected sneakers? So it really, I mean, with between Moore's law and the availability of communications, it's really just open to people's imagination. What can they come up with?
Well, and that part of it, I think, also is that with just the advances being made in sensor technology, the types of data that we're able to collect now just continue to grow and grow. So, there are a lot of smart people out there figuring out, okay, now we've got access to this data. Here's what we can do with it. We can build these cool applications.
Right. And what we see, and certainly our belief, is that it's not just about the data. This is going to be essentially taking that. People forget that the data is collected by microprocessors, intelligent systems. So this really is a distributed intelligence model, distributed computation and data. And so being able to kind of harness the power of all that intelligence in these billions and billions of things that are out there, and that's the real power that's going to evolve. It's not necessarily just a bunch of sensors pushing data to some big data analytics in the cloud. And that, I think, is going to be the real sea change that we see for companies that really understand how to take advantage of it.
Excellent. Well, we certainly look forward to seeing more and more of those applications and seeing how businesses do decide to leverage what you've done. John, thanks for being on the program today.
Absolutely. Thanks a lot.